as parliamentarians in our different countries, we've been really campaigning hard to our heads of government to change their position regarding that.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Please. Can I raise another point we haven't discussed, and that is what pressure can be brought to bear on the Indians? I mean, after all, that is a democracy, and there must be lots of people in the Indian Parliament who sympathise with our point of view, and yet the Indians are selling weapons and training the Burmese military, helping them economically. So, I mean, has your group got any contact with Indian parliamentarians? And do you think we should try and foster contact with the Indians, perhaps through the website that I was proposing? If we had the international parliamentarians for Burma, then obviously India would be a key player in that.
Commonwealth Parliament, CPA. Yeah, we actually had tried to organize a joint seminar with the Indian parliamentarians, but last year, but it was not successful. I think we'll try.
There are not as many Indian MPs concerned with Burma as we would think they would be. There's one patron, Nirmala Deshpande, and she's quite a senior MP, and she has had some links with Burmese NGOs there who have sort of appealed to her, and she's come out with some statements and tried to do a little bit in her own country, but really not to the large extent which India are capable of doing and the MPs are capable of doing. So definitely it's a market which needs tapping, and we have not had as much success doing so as well, because maybe there are not enough Burmese activists within India engaging with the MPs. There's just a few.
We were talking in the course of the debate about arms sales the other night, not least China and India, Russia and Serbia and the Ukraine, but also members of ASEAN. Forgive me, I don't know off the top of my head which ASEAN countries are actually engaged in the sale of arms or the provision of military training to Burma.
Officially, none of the ASEAN countries are engaged in any arms trade. However, there is some level of military riot. Like Singapore government does provide riot gear, and this riot gear is used by the junta against its people, in the sense of shields and batons. Of course, the Singapore government has denied that this is actually an arms issue. It's up to the user whether they're going to use it against the people, and technically it shouldn't, but it is some form of trade where the lives of people are endangered by when they take to the streets. Indonesia has some level of military intelligence exchange in terms of training the officers, not so much in arms use, but in skills
training or
resources. Yeah. So in officially there's no real arms trade. That's why we're pushing ASEAN to call for an arms embargo, because they have always been in the position that we're a peaceful region. We don't fight each other in the sense of the word, and we want an international peaceful solution to this. So one way is to avoid more use of arms within Burma.
The other thought that occurred to me is, I'm Buddhist, by the way, and when I saw these horrific pictures of the monks being beaten up and killed on the streets, I thought, well, this is so terrible that surely it must affect people in the neighbouring countries who are also Buddhist, and primarily in Thailand. I should have thought it would have a huge effect on public opinion there. And yet we don't hear it much discussed. Everybody talks about the general political issues, but they don't focus on a particular aspect of it, which I think has been the outstanding feature of the recent events in Burma itself, and that we should take steps, if we can, to mobilize international Buddhists to focus on these particular atrocities as part of our campaign.
That is the ASEAN way, so to say. I mean, it's unfortunate in ASEAN. We've come a long way in the sense that issues of human rights, democracy are being put on the table in discussions. Levels of protests have increased, but it's nowhere close to how liberated the Europeans are, the Americans are. And again, it's our duty to sort of push that boundaries. But if you sit down to a person and is watching the scenes of violence against Hmongs, they will be, they will be, how can this happen? It's really bad. But if you ask them to take the next step, right to your prime minister, or go to the streets, you will get very little support. Travel ban, I think there have been travel bans as well, but that has not really affected the junta leadership as well in this country.
Well, because they didn't travel very well anyway.
They travel within the region as well.
The wives do, don't they?
Yeah.
The wives travel.
The wives travel to Singapore to shop and
Travel bans will extend to the wives.
True.
Also, there have been Burmese military junta leaders who've had medical treatment in Singapore as
Yes.
well, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think that would be a
Former
good
Prime
thing
Minister.
to target.
Yeah. But Singapore just said that will be an anti-hypocritical or against the hypocritical law if they will not to allow medical treatment to anyone who's ailing. And
Well, I think that's a poor argument because I'm sure for
Definitely.
most Burmese refugees they wouldn't be able to get treatment at
You're
all.
right.
So, in Singapore.
There's a lot of pressure for greater sanctions against Burma. What sanctions do you believe, or are you pressing for, and which do you believe will be the most effective?
in terms of the economic sanctions, I think one concern for the region and the MPs as well is the argument used by many anti-sanctions forces is that the sanctions do hurt the people, eventually hurt the people.
On the website, you have people having all sorts of ideas, couldn't you? I mean, every parliamentarian would have his own thoughts, and they could be exchanged on that website. That'd be the whole idea.
I think that's I think that's very, very important, having the exchange of ideas, but I think it's also important to coalesce around certain pressure points. Because I think the banking thing is actually crucial for the junta, because Burmese currency is worth nothing, absolutely worth nothing. They need hard currency if they're going to buy in international markets. So if you hit them in their US dollar bank accounts, that will actually hurt them.
That's why they encourage tourism, because people arrive in the country and they have to
Sure.
hand over their hard currencies, which then goes to the regime.
Mm.